Hey everyone, feeper here back with another video for you. So video games are a huge aspect of my life, but another big part of my life is music. I've been playing since I was 9 years old and even made the wonderful decision to go to college for it, where I ended up getting a bachelor's of music and audio engineering. Needless to say, music and audio are big aspects of my life that I've made a career out of, a little less so now considering the global circumstances, but I have some insight into how video game music works and I kind of wanted to share that all with you today. So in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at how music in video games works, and I'm going to be using the Soul series as an example. There's one boss fight in particular that showcases video game music very well, both on a technical level and thematically, and one that, in my opinion, would have felt quite hollow, haha, get it, without the music that goes with it. So without further ado, let's jump in. Alright, so first off, let's establish one very important principle that drives a lot of video game music. This principle is what I like to call triggers. It has different names, but essentially something will happen in the game state that will then trigger a piece of music to play and end. This could be as simple as player enters tavern, play tavern music. However, video game music has a pretty big and unique problem that might not seem obvious at first, but this one thing actually makes composing for video games very difficult. And what is that one thing, you might ask? Well, actually, it's you, the player. You see, because game devs don't know how long it will take every player to activate these triggers, most music can't have a clear ending. This is what makes video game music structurally different than something you'd hear on the radio or in a movie. Again, at first glance, you might think, oh, well, that's not so bad, just make a 16-measure piece of music or what have you and make it loop. I can do that in GarageBand. But then what happens when the player does move to the next area, or complete the boss battle, or do whatever action is required to trigger a change? The music can't just abruptly stop, generally speaking, because all memes aside, that will ruin your immersion. So, video game composers need to simultaneously write something that can loop seamlessly back into itself, not distract the player from gameplay, while also being able to transition to anything else at any given moment. Not so easy now, is it? Solving this conundrum is sort of the art of making video game music. Of course, there are songs that are tailor-made to a cutscene or something and act more like movie music, but what we're discussing here is music that happens while you're actively playing the game. So, let me show you a piece of music that masterfully accomplishes this task. Yuka Kitamura's Soul of Cinder boss music. So before I start showing you the actual examples from the track in real time, I kind of want to explain what's going to happen first. So, as I'm sure many of you know, this boss has two phases to it. The music from 000 to roughly 213, 214 is what's used and looped for the first phase of the boss. So the trigger or the conditions for this music are pretty much this music plays until the boss loses all its health or the player does, essentially. If you die, the music fades out and you respawn. If you kill the boss, then something different happens. Now the musical reason this works is because the chord at 213 or so, without getting into too much music theory, leads directly back to the start of the piece of music, which is what the loop actually is. What I'm about to show you isn't a great edit, but if I take this part of the track right here, and then put the beginning of the track, which is this, right next to each other like so, you'll see that it works pretty well. This musical moment is called a half cadence, which is music jargon for it's an incomplete resting point. You get this big crescendo where the whole orchestra is getting louder and louder. Some of the percussion instruments are added with these fast rhythmic figures to add to the suspense, until it all releases back to the start of the piece. Now make no mistake, this isn't a coincidence. This was deliberately done by the composer because she knew that this piece of music would have to loop back to itself for this boss fight. Now if you take all the boss's health away, then you enter phase 2, where the music from 2:15 or so onward in the track takes over and is looped until again either you or the boss dies. But there's one more very important thing that happens musically when you defeat the first phase. Since once again there's no way to know how long it will take any given player to defeat the first phase of the boss, and you can cause the transition to happen at literally any moment, the composer and the game devs need something that can work at any moment to transition from the first phase music to the second phase music. This is also a big problem when you change biomes in, say, an RPG and the music has to change with it. This is often accomplished by another piece of music that is recorded as a stinger and used for this specific purpose. Sometimes it can even be just an edited section of the original track. Now most transition music starts soft and then grows into this very loud thing to mask the first piece of music fading out, but technically it can really be anything. So, when the player causes phase 2 to occur in our boss fight, the phase 1 music begins to fade out, and then the transition music fades in and leads nicely into the music for phase 2, which in this case will loop until the boss or the player dies. Now that I've outlined how this is going to work, let's hear it in action. So for reference, here's what the start of the piece of music sounds like. Now that we have that in our ear, here's a clip of me not causing the transition to phase 2 to occur. You can hear how the big crescendo from earlier just leads back to the start of the piece of music, essentially a cleaner version of the edit that I did earlier. And now here is me causing the phase 2 transition to occur. You can hear how there's this big swell, almost like the chord I outlined before when the piece normally would have looped back to the beginning, and then the piano comes in with Gwyn's theme from Dark Souls 1, which musically signifies the next phase of the boss. Thematically, this works great because the boss starts using Gwyn's moves against you from the first game. Now I'm going to play you a clip of me just getting to phase 2 without any of the music, and you're going to see how hollow I had to do it again, I'm sorry, and empty this moment becomes. With the music, it's a powerful moment that I know me and many other fans of the series will never forget. Without it, most people probably wouldn't even notice that he's using Gwyn's moves against you. Now this is just one example of this in a boss fight where it's much easier to structure everything because you have these very clear phases where things have to happen. But this same philosophy is applied throughout the world of pretty much every game that you'll ever play, whether you're just waiting for a lobby in Call of Duty or you're exploring the open fields of Toussaint in The Witcher. And that's a quick look at how music in video games works from both a technical and a musical standpoint. I know I sort of went a little bit more into the technical aspects, but I don't want to put like too much music theory stuff in here because that's a rabbit hole that I don't want to get into right now. I am planning on doing more videos talking about video game music and sound design and sound effects in games, so if you guys like this kind of content, let me know in the comments below or by liking the video. I also stream live over at twitch.tv/feeper7 every day of the week except for Monday and Thursday, so feel free to check me out over there. Subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you for watching the video once again. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Peace. If you guys liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe. Other than that, I'll see you on the next one.